All right, welcome back to another episode of Life Between the Sticks with Cody Cropper, your host, Brandon. And Cody, back to the guest bench. We got another one.
Yes. Dillon Powers. Welcome, my friend.
What's up, guys? Happy to be on. Looking forward to some good chats.
Yes.
So you're teammates with Dillon right now, known the man for a long time. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Probably, over 10 years now?
I would say I was trying to remember exactly which camps and stuff we were at.
Yeah. I mean, your under 20 cycle.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So what was that? 2010 maybe?
Yeah. So 12, 13 years off and on, played against each other a few times, played with each other, here and there. So
you said his under 20, you said his under 20 cycle. What does that mean for you?
That I played in two. So I was the backup goalkeeper in his under 20 cycle.
As an 18-year-old?
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old.
And I played in two as well.
There you go. Look at that.
My cycle didn't make it to the World Cup, but the one before we did.
Yeah. And then I was part of his cycle, which didn't make it. And then my cycle did make it. And then we got shellacked. We got shellacked in Turkey by France. We tied 1-1. We got beat by Spain 4-0, and we got beat by Ghana 4-0 in the group stage.
Yeah.
That was fun. It was a lot of fun.
We didn't have the best World Cup either. It just started off with a 3-0 loss to Germany. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
That's a tough opening game at any level.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
It is.
So this will be fun. Obviously, teammates right now in Orange County. Long time MLS players, a lot of experience. So this will be good to get a rundown. This is, let me just triple check real quick. Yep. Game week 5 of the MLS season. Dillon, as I was kind of telling Cody at the beginning of the season, I haven't watched a lot of MLS in my time. And him and Eli Lesser from This Week in MLS told me this is going to be one of the greatest seasons ever. And if by great you mean completely unpredictable, then yes, we've absolutely nailed it because all of our predictions are already upside down. Is that how you know the MLS, that you can win or lose every single week, no matter what?
Yeah. And I don't know if that's something about American soccer in general, but it's definitely the case that you always felt like anybody can beat anybody on any given day. I don't know if that's what you think too, Cody, but
yeah. I mean, I think there are so many factors that come into soccer in America, especially professionally, just because no other league in the world deals with playing on both grass and turf, as well as the possibility of 1-hour flights or 6-hour flights, depending on where you are in the country and who you're playing that weekend.
Yeah.
There's so many factors that come into play that impact a team's performance on any given weekend.
Grass versus turf.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you feel like there's more parity in this league than in others?
Yes.
I mean, you look at the way it's been built, with a single entity fashion, and there's always been a bit of a redistribution of, with the draft and other allocation money, there's always been a redistribution to the bottom. And I wonder if, although it may not seem like it, if there is just genuinely more parity between clubs, and that's what makes it, so competitive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I also think the salary cap, that creates a lot of parity.
Kind of. Because the DPs are very particular where they go.
Very particular and very different, and different teams are willing to spend different amounts on DPs and then spend different amounts of TAM money, right? So now it's, I don't know, it's getting a little funny for me with the whole TAM and GAM and all this nonsense, but I don't know. It's definitely more of a level playing field. However, X amount of factors impact any given weekend.
Yeah. I do feel like the inequality, the financial inequality since they've introduced TAM and the DPs and GAM has definitely risen. I think I haven't seen the actual paper, but I wonder how big that gap will eventually be. Will it eventually get to there's one team spending, $100 million and then one spending 7. What I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think as long as the league allows teams to get away with it, especially favored teams, because we both know that there are teams that get away with a lot more than other franchises. And that was even before COVID and the renegotiation of the CBA. I mean, I can remember being told by the player liaisons in New England that LA Galaxy would get away with more travel, more chartered flights than any other team. And then they would hold New England accountable for their 6, because you were given 6 before COVID, 6 legs. And New England would use 6, and they would be told you can't use any more. Yeah. But LA Galaxy would somehow get like 12.
Yeah.
And nobody would say anything to them. So you're sitting there like, well, how does that make sense?
Yeah, you always hear things like that, yeah. And I wonder like what the numbers look like. But I think it just shows that it's just like any other organization, or there's different powers and different bigger players that kind of maybe pull more weight. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it is a fascinating league, especially as an outsider, like coming in to learn about it. It is built different. There's no doubt about it. Expansion teams coming in, the requirements, like if you were there 10 years ago versus coming in today, it's a completely different ballgame and less parity. But I tell you what, it is creating a heck of a lot of drama on the field, which we've been able to pick through. So guys, I want to pick your brains on 4 games today specifically. And I want to start right away with Columbus versus Atlanta. Columbus Crew 6, Atlanta United 1. As we look at the form guide, Atlanta United were riding hot. They're one of our best teams. They were undefeated, 3 wins and a draw coming into this one. On the flip side, Columbus had only won 1 game with a draw and 2 losses. So here's the weird part about all this. It's an international break, except for in the MLS. We play through it, baby. No days off. Such an American mentality, apparently. And Atlanta United, you could say, is quite pissed about it because they lost, obviously, Almada, Machop Chol, Etienne Jr., Giacomakis, Hernandez, and Robinson. Oh, and Luis Abram.
Players. Yeah. 7 players.
Let's see.
And 2 of them are straight up the spine, Almeida and Robinson.
And then the Columbus Crew had Deganek, Room, and Zelarayan. So they, had half the people out. So anyways, what do you guys think as players about international breaks in the middle of the season and equality for these games to be played?
Personally, I think this year specifically, the league is pushing through international breaks solely because of the fact that they've now added Leagues Cup. So they are struggling to find dates or times in which they can get the demand of games or the schedule of games in. And this is one of the ways that they're going to be able to accomplish this.
Yeah, I think that I guess it's always I've always wondered like how they could do it without it. And it seems like this year in particular, because of the Leagues Cup, it's like maybe they don't have a choice. But I've always wondered what, how much choice they actually have in making that a reality for players. But personally, like I kind of like it. I think there is that argument that all the stars are out, but on the other side of it, like you can kind of see the full roster of a team and like what the entire team is capable of. If there's a good culture at a team and guys who don't play much get an opportunity and they know, they can be counted on and they can follow through with what the norm is, like that's really cool to see. And I think it does give players who don't always get to shine an opportunity to, a few more opportunities throughout the year that they might not get otherwise. So from that perspective, like I kind of love it. It's basically the opposite argument, but it's
I think that's a great point. It shows the depth of different organizations. Like, for example, in this case, Atlanta, one of the hottest teams, they're off in the first 4 games. They're off to their best start in MLS history, which is a fascinating statistic because of the team that they were in their first 2 years with Joseph Martinez and Almiron. Now they're better, but you go to Columbus, who's been struggling this season, and you get popped because you're missing your stars. So that shows maybe their depth isn't as good and how much they truly rely on the playmaking ability of Almeida.
For sure.
Yeah,
Look,
sure.
I'd say there's a lot of teams that are probably gonna be like, man, did not want this international break. And other teams like Columbus are like, hell yeah, let's do it again, you know?
Yep.
True.
And we'll see. But yeah, so that's the first one. Like I said, I'm assuming the situation is good or as bad for every team as they can make it. There's a lot of young players and depth players that got minutes that, you know, definitely would have. I know I watched Minnesota United. Dane's away with Canada. Forget who's there right now, but he got to go in. Clint Irwin. He absolutely trucked somebody actually, but he got to play 90 minutes and he got to step up. Right. So like I said, there's opportunities, which is players you always want. So anyway, 6-1 Columbus over Atlanta. This one was in Columbus and it just, you know, from the first moment, 14th minute, Columbus gets it off. From there, they go up 2-0. They go up 3-0. They go all the way up to 5 unanswered goals before Ledden gets the one back. And then sure enough, in stoppage time, Columbus was refusing to quit and absolutely put him to the sword with the 6th goal. Cody, I know, you know, Brad Guzan, rough day out for the office for him, but how about Christian Ramirez and Columbus stepping up when an opportunity is given?
Yeah. I mean, welcome back to MLS. Christian Ramirez obviously scores 2 goals in his first start of the season. For me, it's just disappointing to see a player like Christian have to leave the league and come back to get the opportunity that he truly deserves. Like, there's no reason that a young American, when he left, you know, arguably mid-20s, still considered young. So a young American player has to leave the league to come back to the league to get, 1, his true value, and 2, an opportunity to play as a starting like goal scorer. You know, like, that to me is crazy, but that's the way that the MLS works, unfortunately.
Do you think that like I'm just thinking in my experience in Europe, like, do you think that happens everywhere in terms of like people aren't valued enough where they're at and have to like leave the team or kind of find it elsewhere? Or do you think that's highlighted more in MLS?
It's definitely highlighted more in MLS, in my opinion, in my experience, just because having grown up, say, in England, for me, English players are paid and valued and sought after. Look at the transfer fees for young English players. When I was at Southampton, you had 3 big names come through the academy. You had Luke Shaw, Callum Chambers, and James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse is now the captain of Southampton and was given a long-term deal at like 17 years old. Luke Shaw was given the same long-term deal and sold at 18 years old to Man United for over $30 million. And Callum Chambers was sold to Arsenal for $16 million at 18 or 19 years old.
Do you think that's just for domestic players? Because it does seem like the DPs, the TAMs are valued because, you know, they're targeted to bring into the league. And there is a sense that there's like a monopoly on domestic players. Like, so they don't have to.
Yeah. I mean, I
get
think
the true value unless they can leave.
Yeah. If you look at a majority of American players that are getting paid big money or bigger money are guys that have gone overseas and come back to the league because MLS wants them back in MLS because they're American. But it's like, if you don't leave, you don't get that money because you're disposable, you know, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well,
unless
you're familiar, right? Like,
you're
they
familiar
don't have to pay you more because you're already here and you're not itching to leave. Like, it's
Exactly.
like a lot of us in the normal world. Sometimes they get a promotion, you got to leave a company. But if you don't leave the MLS, then they kind of just got you in that salary pool that, there's not a lot of wiggle room necessarily.
Yeah, unless I think you get to like a certain level, like senior national team, and then you have options like to go abroad, and that's when I think they're like, okay, we'll pay you up. But even in my own experience, like my first couple of years had a lot of success in the league, and right when I got my Italian passport, I literally signed a new contract like 2 weeks later. So it was like the minute I had leverage, it's like, okay, we'll pony up. So I think that's what it seems to be the case of.
Yeah. And I think another example is like Sean Johnson. Sean is a veteran MLS guy. And this year he got paid at Toronto because he was a free agent throughout, like an entire free agent. And I think what took him so long to sign in Toronto was the fact that he was deliberating between going abroad and making more money or going to Toronto and making a little bit more money than what he was doing in New York. It was like, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? I don't want to stay in New York, but do I go abroad or do I go to Toronto?
Yeah. It's kind of, it's interesting to see what the texture of that all that is.
Mm-hmm. Well, assumptions, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Again, you guys have a lot of experience. You have a lot of friends that have done contracts and done negotiations and things. So like, you come from a place of general familiarity, which I find fascinating. If we bring it back real quick to Columbus and Atlanta, it is one of those games where Columbus just caught Atlanta on a bad day for them. The fact that they had an XG of 2, scored 6, good day for Columbus. Atlanta only got 2 shots off, 1 on target versus Columbus's 15 with 6 on target. So it was one of those days that just everything went their way. I would say a lot of the goals are pretty similar, right? Beat a man on the wing, get a cross in. Columbus did a great job of having someone drive at the heart of the goal. They kind of sucked all the defenders in. Then they would have a second runner coming in at the top of the box, but it just, like I said, it's one of those days where everything kind of went Columbus's way. But again, Dillon, they were on the front foot. They would like take people on. They would touch and run. Have you, I guess my question is, have you guys ever gotten in that point where it's just all clicking and you're like, just more. I've got all the confidence in the world, and Atlanta's sitting there going, I can't get away with anything right now.
I mean, I'm laughing because I feel like we've both been on both ends of those, I've been on the end where, everything's clicking, you score an early goal and then boom, boom, boom. And it's just happy days. But also on the other side of it, it's like, I've been on those when you're out there 4-0 and you're just running around and just like wanting the game to be over because it's like, we're beaten. And I don't know, the goal that for me that I was like, they're not in it today was, I think maybe the third goal, it was a header off a corner kick, I think, where it just didn't seem like the guy didn't even jump. He just kind of like just knocked it in, and Guzan just kind of hold his hands up. It's like, where are we? And I think it seemed like one of those performances that they do happen, and maybe it's a fluke or just a bad combination in the first few minutes that defeats a team. But man, that's you could sense that's the game it was, and
I mean, I've been there, and it's tough, especially as a goalkeeper, because you can't impact anything in front of you. So whatever is happening in your 18-yard box is an absolute in those situations is an absolute dumpster fire, because that no matter what you do, no matter how many saves you make, you're still going to concede 4, 5, 6, 7, and they just keep coming. And you're just like, what? I can't do anything. Like, I can't change what's in front of me. And it's such a mind.
That's why the psychology of that is so hard, because you have to finish a game and you're like, I can't affect this.
Yeah.
And just like, you just have to suffer to just pay the price for the next till the ref blows the whistle.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, and I've been in those situations several times, having played for, I mean, I can think of New England, Cincinnati. I had one at Vancouver last year. I mean, I played 2 games in a row, back-to-back weekends, Atlanta away, Orlando away. We conceded 7 in Atlanta. We had 2 red cards in the first 15 minutes. We conceded 7 in Atlanta. The next weekend we went to Orlando and lost 6-1.
Oh,
we had one red card in the first minute. 13 goals in 2 games. And I'm sitting there like
3 red cards also in 15 minutes could be concerning.
It was, yeah. But what was funny is the same player, Xavier Kouassi, got sent off in both games, but his red card in Atlanta had been rescinded. And then he went in and started in the Orlando game and got sent off in the first 15 minutes. And we're sitting there like, what is
he like earned an extra life in a video game and immediately just went balls out and then boom.
Lost it.
Exactly what.
Yeah. She's like, no, you know what? I felt bad. Like I really should have had that suspension. So let me just go make it right.
Yep. I mean, and honestly, I'm like 95% sure that Jay Heaps, who was the manager at the time, got fired after that game and after that Orlando game in 2017. And the goalkeeping coach pulled me and was like, we're not going to play you the rest of the year. He's like, you need a mental break. I was like,
oh my God.
Oh my God.
They're tough for organizations and teams. Like, it's just, I always think that the response to them is maybe sometimes it's justified, but I think the response is not necessarily congruent with what's going on, because I think they're a bit fluky and like things can just happen. Like you mentioned, expected goals too, they scored 6. Like you can just get pounded up on sometimes. And I think it's hard to not have like a severe response to that. But I think sometimes you just kind of have to throw your hands up and be like, you know what? It just wasn't our day at the office. Like, and just kind of let it pass through you.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is a lot of teams, a lot of organizations, a lot of coaches, they don't see it like that.
No.
Hey, let's not forget last week, Atlanta beat Portland 5-1 and they were on the right side of it, you know? And
exactly.
It seems like there's kind of been one of those standout ones. 2 weeks ago was LAFC 4, New England 0. And then if I go back one more week, no one really blitzed. So there's a couple of like wild scores. This is the first one. And so I like I said, I think it'll be interesting to see how Atlanta bounces back. I'm sure they're not worried being international break, having some of their starters completely out. To your point, though, when they get back, it's got to be back to the level that they were. Like, this is crazy, though. Like Columbus has shot up the table as well, just with this one result. And I know it's still early days, so teams are still pretty compressed, right? Like Montreal are last place in the East on 3 points, and one win would take them up to like Philly and 8. So it's very compressed table, but they also go up big on goal difference. I mean, they'd conceded 7 going into this. Now they're +3. So it completely kind of turns on the momentum. So we'll have to see if they continue to ride that fun wave or not. But we'll have to see. The next one, though, and I think this was a bit of a surprise. Miami had some decent results early on, then they kind of stumbled. Chicago out of the gate just stumbling, but they have immediately found both feet, a left and a right, and they beat Miami 3-2 on the road. And now they're all of a sudden, if you look at the form guide, they're in a little bit of form, which is, I think, surprising us since they've only lost 1. They've got 2 draws and a win now. My question, Chicago, just as an organization real quick, they don't have a sponsor. They have not sold a sponsor. I was on the Chicago Fire subreddit. Apparently the team isn't really using the name Chicago or Fire as much as they can. What is going on with this franchise? Do we know?
Dillon?
I have not. It's not been on my radar, but now I'm kind of curious. Now I might have to send a few texts, see what comes back.
I tell you, I'm just like, I know Nottingham Forest don't have a sponsor, and I'm sure Columbus or Chicago are just trying to find the same one. but like they are called Chicago Fire FC, but like I said, they don't have any Chicago or Fire branding on the kit. They don't even have a sponsor. It kind of looks like they're a club team out there just smacking MLS teams in this one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The Chicago Fire organization has the last 5 years been a little all over the place in terms of rebranding at least once, maybe twice.
No, twice. They went from like the old school fireman Chicago Fire. They had that super ugly oval.
Yeah.
And now they've got kind of an updated version of their original one.
Yeah.
Right. So they've rebranded twice in the last 5 years. They've moved away from the map fray. No. What was their old stadium?
Lincoln Field or
yeah. Toyota. So now they're at Soldier Field, and they sell maybe 5,000 tickets, 5,000 to 8,000 tickets in Soldier Field, which is 60 to 70,000. I mean, it's just such a difficult organization to be at. But this year they started slow, like Brandon said. They found a little bit of form. I mean, beating a Miami team that has actually been pretty good.
I was just thinking, you got me thinking about the Fire organization just in general. Like, I just feel like it's disappointing. I feel like it's Chicago. You know what I mean? It's like they've been such a lackluster organization, and I don't know what's behind it. I know there's a lot that goes into these things, but like you almost feel like they'd be better off like closing the doors for a few years and then coming back in like with a new stadium downtown and just like coming in as a new MLS franchise.
Yeah.
You know, imagine they came in as a new MLS franchise. It'd probably be huge.
Yeah, it probably would be. You're right.
Which sucks because they're OG MLS, right?
They are.
I mean, we're talking MLS 96.
And they were a good organization for a number of years.
Yeah. They're without a doubt. So I was on the Reddit. The fans are really like back and forth on, I think, the organization as a whole. For them, they're saying our best player, Navarro, is out. Both of our DPs have had a lot of injuries. Torres, Shaqiri are out, and they're still like kind of slowly progressing. Got a young goalkeeper. I think they just played a couple of like kids in this game as well. So if there are some potential upsides to the disorganization is potentially young players coming through, starting to fight. Obviously Kai Kamara is a vet getting the game winner in the 90th +2 with a tidy finish. But this was just a punch for punch game that somehow Chicago came out on top. Like I said, I think it was Fire score first. They actually go up 2. Miami fights back to even. And when we have to see, I'm just really happy to see that Neville's son got some minutes again today.
Well, I mean, again, that goes to the conversation we had last week. The nepotism is fascinating. There's so much of it in U.S. soccer and in Major League Soccer that it's kind of crazy.
Someone could write a book on it.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. I mean, last week we touched on Michael Bradley getting his men's national team debut when Bob was in his first stint as the head coach. And it's like, there's a prime example. No, but for me, this one, really bad defending from Miami on all 3 goals. I love DeAndre Yedlin. He's a very good friend. I played with him for years in the U.S. youth national teams. However, the first and second goals are bad defending on the back post.
That's an understatement, Cody. Tehran touched the ball 3 times within 8 yards of the goal, and no one could get around him. And after misfiring his cross and it popping back to him, he absolutely roofed it near post. Yeah. Like the fact he had that much time and opportunity in the box is sad. It's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, let me correct myself. Goals 1 and 3 come from DeAndre's side. So DeAndre's bombing forward, which I'm sure he's been told to do as the right back under Phil Neville, but doesn't get back. And if he's not getting back, there obviously has to be cover from somewhere. So that's a miscommunication somewhere along the lines. And
Yeah, I'm just watching it now. It's like
There's no,
the organization behind the ball was pretty bad.
yeah, yeah. And I love DeAndre, but he has to do a better job of tracking back or communicating to someone to cover him if he's going forward.
Yeah, he was so high up when the ball got played. I think either he's got to tuck in as the ball's being played, or he's got to somebody has to cover for him, because I don't think he's getting back in from that position. Yeah, it's actually, I mean, one of my favorite topics that I don't think it's discussed enough is the shape behind the ball in the attack, and it just shows you it's such a mechanical thing. Like if it's not done properly, goals happen. Just like this Chicago goal, the transition goal. It's if you don't as our gaffer says now, if you leave the house, lock the door. And I think that's actually it's pretty good. If you lock it up and have really sensible shape, and organize it, you're probably not going to get scored on in transition. But the thing is, it's hard to kind of organize when you're kind of doing both. So that's why it happens. That's what happens. It's hard to focus on anyway.
And Atlanta got caught out on that. Their backside defending and their runners, we've seen this actually quite a bit in the league, is a team will overcommit to one side or commit too deep into their box. They don't have those layers, because I think they get a little bit too tunneled on what the first and maybe second most dangerous threat is, and they don't realize that there's half the field behind them, and to try to maybe play it in the middle a little bit. And, that happened obviously with the third one where, Kai Kamara wide open on the backside, and a perfectly weighted ball for Kai to step into it and finish. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. 37 years young, I might add. This guy. He has been, I mean, living the life, keeping the dream alive.
Yeah, I had to, when I realized it was him, I had to blink a few times to see if it wasn't somebody else.
Yeah. Did you ever play with Kai?
No, I didn't play, just against him.
Okay, just against him.
Tough to play against him.
Yeah, it's tough to play against for sure.
Against, for center backs, it's just a nightmare.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's Chicago's first win of the season. Miami are 2-3-0. So they're a little bit higher in the table. They're above the playoff line where I think that that's going to be their objective for the season, is just qualify. But we'll have to see. I'm going to try to not let my bias go against Phil Neville and all the good lads at Miami, because we want to see him succeed. All right, we're got to take a break because, Cody, we got friends, and you want to tell people about your friends. So Owen's back, aren't they? But a different product.
Owen is back, and this is cold brew coffee. It is a great way to start your morning. 20 grams of plant protein, 5 grams net carbs, and 6 grams of fiber. Honestly, one of my favorite ways to start my day. Going into a gym workout gives me the caffeine kick that I need, and the added protein that my body so desperately desires.
Is it a protein shake flavored with coffee, or is it cold brew with a ton of protein in it?
That's a great question, and I think you're asking the wrong person.
Well, I suppose if there's caffeine in it, it's probably cold brew. But anyways, I think a lot of us drink coffee and stuff like that. 20 grams of protein is no joke. That's a great way to start your day or before workout with a protein-packed drink. So check it out. Link in the description as always. Save a little bit if you use Cody's code, which will be right there as well. Anyways, back to the show. Here's a fun one. Kansas City at home 1, Seattle, aka Jordan Morris 4.
Yeah, this is the Jordan Morris show. 4 goals on the night, and is actually leading the Golden Boot race with 7 goals.
He's had a couple multi-goal games that has really propelled him up there.
Oh. Yeah, man. Seattle is such a I think that's the team I've fallen in love with the most over the last 4 or 5 years. And one of my good friends, Shane O'Neill, was playing there in 2020, maybe 2021, or maybe 18 to 20. And I watched a lot of their games, and man, they're just such an impressive franchise. And
Schmetzer has them so well drilled.
Oh, it's really you have to tip your cap to them, because to do it so consistently and to have there's a real organizational belief and expectation that just gets carried through. And that's not easy to set up or maintain. And they do. And that's like, you have to tip the cap. And Jordan Morris has been a part of that. And like, every time I think like, I feel like I've wanted to write him off for some reason, but man, he's just such an impressive player.
He is, especially coming back from an ACL injury, which he then re-tore because he blew out his ACL. Re-tore it, I think, in his first game or second game back, and goes through that whole mental. I mean,
tough.
It's tough, and he comes back stronger and continues to prove people wrong.
Yeah, look, a lot of us national team fans were really upset when he went to MLS right away, when he had offers to go to Europe. He's continuously put himself in the conversation this season, which you have to respect that many different national team camps and coaches have brought him in. But I definitely think he gets a hard ride by a lot of men's national team fans. I won't say whether it's the fair weather or the hardcore ones, but he definitely has to try harder. And I think if you just look at it from Jordan's perspective, again, to come back from a serious injury and to just be clicking, he's got the frosted tips. You can tell he's in a good mood. We'll see if he can continue this. But at the end of the day, if Americans players are at a high level and doing the best that they possibly can, that's only a good thing. And so you have to sometimes fine tune your thing and don't be happy for him, because that increases the US's profile and our chances for success as well, because striker is a bit of a position that is lacking in the US men's national team. And if he can flex between wing and center forward and find ways to look, I think it was his second goal where he was offsides and he had the awareness to pull himself back on before he finished and opened up. That is instinctual. And that's a really, really good thing to see for him and what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. And this brings me back to the conversation that we had about strikers at the World Cup and the fact that he was one of those players that was not given a fair shake, in my opinion, during that time frame, because he came on the wing once.
Yeah, the first game, because he came on over Reina and everyone threw a fit.
Yeah. We already discussed that whole topic. Yeah. That was fun.
I remember it from Twitter, unfortunately. But he had limited minutes, but he'd roll off the bench.
But it goes, his form now goes to argue why he wasn't given an opportunity then. Yeah. And maybe he wasn't in form, and that happens. However, you look at his form and you're going, I mean, he couldn't have been that far off of it.
I also wonder though, like how much of his form is just the familiarity of Seattle, and the players around him. Like his connection with Lodeiro is like they have
unbelievable.
I mean, they've been together for I don't know how many years now, but I think I see him as a different player. And I haven't watched him enough with the national team to be honest, but I see him as a different player with Seattle. I think he's a bit of an unconventional guy, but I think has
very effective.
Has a real talent to score goals. I mean, I was also very impressed with that second goal, getting himself back on sides, but it's not easy to like score goals year after year after year. And I think he does have this instinctual ability to be in the right spot a little bit. And I am impressed.
I agree.
So Seattle also, they had 6 players out on international duty. Kansas City had 1. You had Arriaga, you had Baker Whiting, you had Nuhu, you had Roldan, Rui Diaz, and Vargas all out on international duty for Seattle. Yeah. Talk about depth.
3 or 4 of those guys are starters.
Yeah, I can tell you who was the happiest person on the day was Leo Chu, who had a hat trick of assists.
He was Jordan.
Yeah,
dude, he had some tricky feet and created a few. Yeah. His first ball in the first goal was really nice, and it's good to see. Like we might have discussed this off beforehand, but like to see these young players get opportunity, but then also like the depth of the organization, and again, it speaks to like Seattle. Like they have this culture, they have this identity that doesn't matter who's playing. It's like we expect to win. and
Yeah.
and that carried forward in the international break.
I agree. And I think it goes to show that last year was a one-off year for them because they had so many injuries, and all those injuries just stacked up against them at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Because they didn't go out and sign that many different players. I think they signed maybe one or two different players this year, or one or two new players. And the one that I can think of is Hebert from New York City, who they signed as a number 9 as support play to Rui Diaz because he had his fair share of injuries last year. So they needed depth at the number 9 position.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like they added 7 or 8 new faces to the organization.
I can help you real quick on that. I got to go to transfers. Anyways, what I also say is this goes all the way back to Siggy Schmid. He set this freaking organization up for the longest success ever, and they've been able to maintain. But him being there for so long, and obviously Brian Schmetzer now being there quite a long time as well, what Seattle brings to the table is consistency. Like Siggy got him set up, and then they've just made minor tweaks and changes. To your point, Cody, Hebert came in as a 31-year-old Brazilian from NYCFC. Jacob Castro was a free transfer from San Diego State, 22-year-old. There's a Norwegian guy that came in from Kentucky through the draft, another draft guy, a 19-year-old and a 24-year-old, right? Like,
but again, those aren't names that are playing every week.
No, that's exactly it. It's one player. You got one player, 3 college kids, someone from Tacoma, the MLS Next Pro, and then a USLC player.
Which they also do a good job. They do a good job of integrating the academy. They challenge those guys. They're in first team training. They give them opportunities when they can. So that's also a part of it, is like a strong youth. And it's not like you see these players, like, I guess, not too many come through and become like regular, starters, but it does happen. And I feel like that's having the youth as kind of the lifeblood of the organization also is, they've set up a really good, and I'm so impressed with what they've done. And asking Shane about, like, why is it like that? And it's like, he said that they're just like, there's no explanation to it really. It's just like, we're the Sounders. This is, we need to win. And there's a really competitive expectation for winning, it sounds like. And so when you got in your organization to a point where, like, you don't have to, like, you just say, this is who we are. And that's not easy to do.
Everybody on the team believes it too. And it's been like that for a decade.
I mean, how rare is that in sports?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can think of maybe 1 or 2 organizations throughout the last 25, 30 years in every sport that has been like that. Like, you think about
1 or 2.
Yeah. You could say the New England Patriots in the NFL. You could maybe argue like the Lakers dynasty or the Celtics dynasty in the NBA. And maybe the Blackhawks during a 5-year period in NHL.
It's hard. Sports are competitive, and to be consistent like that. I remember when they knocked Minnesota out in the playoffs, I think they scored 3 goals in like maybe 1 or 2 in the last 10 minutes. And then they scored the game winner in stoppage time. Like, Minnesota was cruising 2-0, and Seattle just came back and was like, nah, we're not going to go out like this. We're good.
Yeah.
And they just broke them down.
Well, I can tell you when I played there in 2017, it was my first time ever playing in Seattle. We were up 3-0 on Seattle.
Man, they gave you a 3-0 lead.
And we conceded, and they came back, tied 3-3 with 15 minutes to go. And they never stopped believing. And that's the thing that makes their organization different, is, like you said, Dillon, they expect to win. And being 3-0 down, as you know, is not an easy feat to overcome in this league.
It seems like
we walked out of that game like we'd lost because we didn't know what hit us.
It seems like the fans don't quit on the team either. It seems like the fans and the players are on the same page, Dillon. I mean, do you get that vibe? Like, when you guys have to play there, you're like, Will you shut up?
Totally.
Like, we're winning.
Totally, dude.
Give us
Yeah,
a break.
they know what's coming. It's because they know what's coming. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, like, and you definitely feel that. You definitely feel that.
100%. And they feed the team.
Totally.
Their belief, their constant belief feeds that or feeds those players on the field.
It's amazing.
All right. I do just have to bring this up on the flip side, guys. Sporting Kansas City are bad.
Yeah.
No matter how you twist it, no matter what stats you want to look at. I'm sorry, I was going to say Seattle has created the highest XG with 10.2 and they've scored 10. So they are absolutely clinical. If they create chances, they score them. Sporting Kansas City on the other side they're just at the bottom. They're underperforming their XG. They're at the bottom of the table for goal chances created in 90 minutes. It's not clicking. They had their injuries last year. Vermees signed his contract. I don't know, Dillon. I mean, KC, they're a legacy team as well. They have a great stadium. They have great fans. I mean, geez, they got a World Cup venue slot, but from their hometown side, it is not clicking for them.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what's going on behind closed doors. But I think, I'm just thinking back to their days in when did they win the cup? Do you guys remember 2013?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And some of the teams they produced in that era were, very, really impressive. And there was a feel of this, like what we were just talking about with Seattle, like
there was
collective belief, a fan belief. And that was definitely like apparent when you played them. And I think a big part of that was continuity of players. They had a core of players that they built around, and maybe it's just that wave that they had of golden players has gone away, and they haven't really found that right chemistry of core players to kind of take the torch on. That would be my kind of narrative from the outside. I don't know what it's like right now behind closed doors, if there's been anything with ownership or in the front office, but that's what it seemed like to me.
Vermees is the steady hand there, so they at least have had that consistency.
Yeah. But when and he has earned the right, I think, to kind of get a slap on the wrist here, a slap on the wrist there, a second or third chance to kind of bring them out of the ashes. Yeah. That said, I think that they are really in that position where you might have to start looking at making a change, because that might be what ticks the organization on from where they are. And we've had that discussion before, Brandon, where a change in manager turns an organization around.
Well, that might be expensive, because on the 22nd of February, he signed an extension through 2028. So that might come back to bite them. Yeah. I think it is fair to say that Sweat got his two cautions in 10 minutes. They were sloppy tackles. So, having to play down a man against Seattle for 30 minutes, probably a rough day out. But it actually, even after that, they got 2 more goals. So that definitely opened up for a team as good as them. Last one up, gentlemen. Real Salt Lake 0, St. Louis 4. St. Louis are undefeated. What the hell is going on? 5 games played, 5 wins, 15 goals for, 4 goals against, plus 11. Absolutely running away with it. No, I only tease. But look, they're top of the table as far as form, which surprisingly New England is behind them. New England is 4 for 5. I don't know what to say about them. Like, I keep waiting for something to happen, but it doesn't. They are overperforming their XG massively as well. They've got 14 goals off 8.3 XG. It's just clicking. Everything's clicking. They play old school 4-4-2, Dillon. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten his name. Their striker. He just Klaus, just everything he touches goes in. They've had the most goals from inside the box. And that's the thing, is they're making it easy on themselves. They're creating high efficient chances to score, and they're doing the business. How surprised are you by St. Louis?
I mean, no one would have expected 5-0 for any, it's ridiculous. And I think Did you say it's a league record?
Yeah, 4-0 was MLS history, MLS league record. So now 5-0, they are, running. They're setting new standards.
I'm gonna go with beginner's luck. Honestly, I think it might be a case of this. And actually, you know what? Both my parents are St. Louisians, and all my extended family's there, so I might get some slack for saying that. But I do know that like it's been very special sounding like for the city, and a lot of the locals there are really behind the team. And he said, I was talking to my uncle for the opener. He said, or their home opener, and said it was just electric in there. And he's like, the city's been waiting for this for decades. Yeah. And so there's that behind it.
St. Louis is a soccer hit like legacy town.
It is.
You got Scott Gallagher, you had Bush, you got plenty of players that came from there. They're like old school mafia soccer town in St. Louis. And the fact that it's taken them this long to get a franchise, what I would say, Cody, is you think about the longevity. Like St. Louis, Minnesota struggled, Cincinnati struggled, right? There's teams that have come into league and gotten waxed for like 2 years. Not St. Louis. They are going to get around the curve so much quicker. Sponsors are going to come in more ticket sales. People are going to want to come in from a community level. And this is only going to make them a more successful organization in the long run.
100%. That said, I would argue the fact that they had an infrastructure, a pre-existing infrastructure in what was their USL organization, Dillon?
St. Louis FC.
St. Louis FC. They had a
added city when they came to the MLS.
I guess, yeah.
But isn't it different? It was a different organization, I thought.
It was a different organization. So they like had a pre-existing infrastructure and then essentially closed that down and brought in St. Louis City SC for 1 year in MLS Next. And they were signing players in advance of that first year. And they were playing these guys they were playing them in the MLS Next Pro, which last year, or they had them on loan in first divisions in Europe. So like João Klaus was on loan, I believe, in Belgium last year. Roman Berkey was playing in MLS Next Pro last year. And it's like they had this infrastructure and carried it into this year. And I think that's
smart.
For any expansion team coming in, I think you're going to see a change now, because a lot of organizations before that didn't do that and they struggled.
Yeah, I think I didn't really put that together, but that does, it makes a lot of sense why you would do that. There's a little bit of continuity of personnel. Like if I know my coach for a year, or if I know my teammate, even if I'm not playing with him, like I think there's a lot to be said for that. I'm happy for him, honestly. I think it's good for the league to have good expansion teams.
Absolutely. Well, it makes it more competitive, and it really boasts the fact of potential owners or businessmen that are interested, or ownership groups that are interested in bringing other expansion teams into the league, making it like more enticing to them because they're seeing the instant success that an expansion side is having. And it's like, oh, well, maybe I can do that.
Yeah.
Now you're going to get an influx of potential ownership groups or owners, however you want to phrase it, going, okay, well, I'll put in $350 million to bring in a franchise. Yeah. MLS, where do I sign on the dotted line? Show me.
And build a stadium. It's crazy. They play at Minnesota. So
is that their next game?
Yeah, maybe I'll see if I can snag some tickets because my wife's out of town. So Cody,
there you go.
Got a hookup. Let me know. That could be interesting.
Not for you.
I could do some in the stadium reporting for this high quality podcast. Jeez, think about the listeners. But then they go away to Seattle, right? Oh, I'm sorry. No, they're home to Minnesota, so I'm out. But then they go away to Seattle and then at home to Cincinnati. So to be fair, you're going to find out real quick. Cincy at the top, Seattle at the top. We're going to know real quick.
I mean, I think if anything, they go 6-0, and then I think it's a uphill battle those next two games.
Yeah. We could be talking about a different narrative in October about how they came out of the top and just
and plummeted. It could happen.
Look, their locker room, I think you said beginners like them. Their locker room, they have to be just like high off of like the euphoria of being 4-0, 5-0, and then potentially, right? Like,
I wish I was in that locker room right now.
in their mind, they're probably like, we can't do anything wrong. They're not going to change anything. And no one's sitting there going, Coach, I should be getting minutes. Everyone's like, nah, sit down, like copy, paste. Don't even mess with it. Minnesota, they're undefeated, although they're 2 wins, 2 draws. So it's kind of like are you really though? They've got to just run this hot hand as far as they can. And to your point, once something happens, okay, how do you respond? What happens if you lose a player to injury? Because right now they probably use the fewest players in all of MLS this season, because why change?
Yeah. That said, they do have 8 different goal scorers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like João Klaus or Stroud is scoring every goal for them. Stroud.
Just every other.
It's every other. Exactly. But I don't know. I mean, shows some depth, shows some continuity, some team camaraderie. I don't know. It's they've done it right.
All right.
That said, can we talk about RSL?
Yeah. You had Krylock, as one of your players to watch this season. All he's done is committed cautionable offense after cautionable offense, unfortunately. I don't know where you want to go with them, because I don't have a lot to like stand on them. I mean, they're below the line. They're in 10th in the West. They're 4 games played, 1 win, 3 losses, and they're at a -6 goal difference. I mean, they are at the bottom of the pool trying to figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, Dillon and I were talking about this last night, and how difficult of a place Salt Lake is to play. So it even magnifies St. Louis's ability to win there. That said, I think the offensive struggles that RSL are seeing is fascinating, because they had Bobby Wood, they had Sergio Cordova, and they let both of them go for free this past offseason and didn't sign anybody. And that raises big question marks about the organization's commitment to winning games.
Decision-making, squad management. They've lost both their games at home. Austin beat them 2-1 last week, Dillon. But just give us an idea. Isn't Salt Lake Stadium like way out of town? And
yeah, I mean, it's not like the sweetest atmosphere. Like, it's a cool enough, nice enough stadium, but like, it's a bit family friendly. The supporters are a bit ruthless. Like, the small supporter contingents are a bit ruthless and mean, but I feel like there's not this like crazy atmosphere, but it is hard to win there. Like, I played with the Rapids for 4.5 years, and I don't think we ever won there, and the team hadn't won there ever prior to that. And I feel like they do have that to their advantage, and normally you don't see this type of thing happen. But to your point about the goals, it's like you can't, like, you're letting that talent go and thinking it's going to replace itself in somebody else. As people can step up, but at the same time, like, you need some proven goal scorers in your track record. And also Pablo, I played for Pablo for 4 years. He's defensively he's a genius, but he has struggled, I think, to produce teams that score goals. He's very defensive focused, and I learned so much from him on the game in general in that side of the ball. But like, I think his teams have been a bit I don't know if it's, I don't know what they're lacking, but I think it's definitely showing up.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually he was the assistant manager during my time at Houston, and I would say the same thing, that I learned so much from him. His ability to read the game is bar none. I mean, it's incredible, and what he's able to communicate to you and help you understand is amazing. However, I think, as a head coach, he has struggled to score goals and to win games, but his teams don't concede a lot of goals.
No.
So
he gets you buying into that, and even that, because it's true. I mean, clean sheets do win games, but you need to be able to rely on some goals to be scored for the clean sheets to really, pay their dividends.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, honestly, just to touch on Pablo too, though, I think he is a fascinating human being, for one, but just he's an unconventional coach, and I think I think he's just got a way of communicating very nuanced things that you end up kind of, because he thinks in these terms, he's kind of very, very with it and very detailed in how he thinks, and great thought process. But his communication style is really really something that is interesting, and I always hear his voice a lot when I'm playing, just little things like baller man, just little adages that you just don't forget. So I think he's got that mastermind in him in that sense.
Yeah, and that's what made him such a great player.
Exactly.
I mean, for so many years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Pablo Mastroeni, just to clarify, in case anyone is out there, like myself, who is not on a first name basis with Pablo, like these two, long time MLS player. To your point, they have the lowest XG created in the league with 4, right? They've conceded. Wow. And then on the flip side, to your point, that they don't give up on the other side. So, -6 right now on the goal difference. They've scored 3, given up 9. So unfortunately, the defensive side is not working for them either, albeit 5-3 or 5 goals and 4. And then you get blitzed by a hot St. Louis. It's just going to be a tough season for them to kind of turn around and see what they're going to do. To you guys' point, a little bit of squad management is tough, but they won their opener away to Vancouver, and it's just been lost since, which actually puts them almost at the bottom of the form table. But don't worry, Colorado's there. Sorry, Dillon. They are dead last.
Yeah. Colorado's.
What else I was going to say, just as far as the league overall, as we got through game week 5, in the East, New England is in first. Not a lot of expectations for them going into this season. They're in first, Cincinnati second, Atlanta third, Orlando fourth. I'm going to pause there. Cody, you have roots at New England. What's going on, man? They're 4-1-0 all of a sudden.
I mean, their first 2 games were Charlotte and Houston, so I'm gonna wait until we get 10, 15 games into the season, and then we'll have this discussion, because I think they will be in a very different spot. That said,
well, their next game is New York City FC at home and Montreal at home.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, those are 2 games that they should win too. So I don't know. We'll see. I think if those are their first 2 games, and then these are their next 2 games, they should be taking 12 points from those games, from those 4, in my opinion, because they are that good. They can be that good. However, I don't think that they have the depth to do it the entire season.
Fair. Dillon, Cincy second, Atlanta third, Orlando fourth. Any surprises or expectations?
No, I mean, I've definitely been impressed with Philly, over the years, their consistency to stay towards the top. And I think once it seemed like they flipped a switch at some point with Jim Curtin, or kind of really started to understand pay the dividends of him being there for a while. And since they've done that, it's like, I mean, I remember going to play them even back in, I don't know, 18, 19, and like just starting to see that come to fruition. And it's like, damn, this is a good, yeah, I don't know what it's like off the field, but like on the field product, they're putting on a really good product right now. And now I think there's like that collective, they know it too. I think they know it.
Yeah.
There's a confidence about that organization that I'm not surprised to see them in that position.
Yeah. I think right now, I think they've struggled the last couple of weeks. However, I don't think that that's going to last. Jim Curtin is too good of a coach. They have too good of players to not be able to turn the ship around right now. They've obviously started slow, and that happens to organizations, but I have every confidence that they will be back to the organization that ended the season last year, and they'll be fighting for not only the Supporter Shield but MLS Cup.
So obviously Andre Blake, it's groin injury. He's out till mid-April tentatively. They only had 5 players on the bench. So they had 4 extra slots. And so I was like, well, that's kind of wild in the Orlando game, but they did have 7 players off on international duty. So apparently they felt it was better to keep the MLS 2 guys there, let them play their game versus play on the bench. So that could probably go into it a little bit. On the West though, St. Louis obviously in first, Seattle second, LAFC third, Minnesota fourth. A bit of an interesting top 4. Obviously St. Louis and Minnesota surprising people. Seattle, LAFC not so much, I'd assume.
Yeah, I think watching LAFC highlights back yesterday it's kind of they have a lot of talent, and they've kind of showed that they're a premier organization in this league, and you'd expect to kind of see them there going forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think even though they may not be the most explosive or the most loved organization in the league, I think they are very very clinical. Like they find a way to win.
Yeah, that's true.
And yesterday, I don't think they were special. I don't think they deserved to win, but they found a way to win. And good teams, championship winning teams, find a way to win in those moments and in those types of games.
Yeah, it helps when Dallas gets a straight red in the 35th minute and they have the rest of the game to play up a man. But it was 1-1 in the 73rd minute, Dallas getting the equalizer, and Bouanga getting the game winner at the 84th. So clearly they were still able to push through and get it. But a lot of cautions in this one.
Yeah, I will also say there was a lot of VAR in this game too. The FC Dallas goal in the first half was called back for goalkeeper obstruction. Tumasi had a yellow card that was overturned into the red card. And then a penalty was awarded after the referee used the pitch side monitor, which Vela missed. So it was a drama-filled game, and I think VAR got a lot of those decisions right.
We continue to see it and see it a lot. So anyways, that's kind of where it shakes out. Like I said, there are some surprises, waiting to see some teams show up. We're only 5 weeks in, right? We got a long ways to go.
Yes.
But it is fun to kind of see where people stand. So 28 more game weeks to go. Dillon, appreciate you stepping in and joining us for this one. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun chatting, guys. Good topics, and it's fun to kind of break it down.
Yeah.
I'm sure since you're local with Cody, we'll have you on again. Definitely, which would be fun. Cody, as always, appreciate you making time in your, I think, busy schedule. I don't know. I haven't really heard much from you, except I did see you wearing a jacket in training in Southern California.
Well, Dillon can attest to this. It has been
cloudy,
very cloudy and rainy the last, I mean, I've only been here 2 weeks and I've heard the last 3 months have been pretty heavy and pretty, So, the only reason you see me in a rain jacket is because 1, we've been on turf 2 out of 4 days a week, and 2, it has been pissing down with rain. So
he's just not very tough. I was in shorts.
Yeah, that's true. He was in shorts and a t-shirt. Actually, he was in a cutoff and shorts.
It's Cali.
Hey, when you play a 4-1-4-1 and you're the only one in between lines, you got to have that warrior mentality, Dillon.
Damn right.
I love it. All right, we'll be back with more. Reminder, the U.S. men's national team are playing during the breaks. We'll try to catch some of that. Otherwise, we'll be back with game week 6 reviews. So anyways, if you would, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Help get the word out. Otherwise, we'll be on social media throughout the week posting clips. Until next time, take care. Have fun.